Welcome to episode of Awaken the Feminine Within. And today we're talking about why, if you are a female and you have a business, your business is not going to thrive without feminine energy. Now, I don't want you to get scared or to get freaked out or to be like, how dare you say something like that? How dare you predict that my business is not going to survive? That's not what I'm trying to achieve here. But I wanted the title to be strong, to pull your attention into the why. Why is it that a woman-owned business might not thrive without feminine energy? And I'm not saying that women-owned businesses can't thrive without feminine energy. It just depends what your definition of thriving is. Now, in all the women that I've coached that have businesses, the biggest struggle, and this is for women who already have employees, who already have they're making really high six-figure numbers, and maybe they're on their way already to seven figures. And also, I've known women, I haven't coached them, but I know women who have seven-figure businesses that have sold them and had to start over from scratch because they felt like they had lost themselves entirely into that business. And I mean, what's the point of having a seven-figure business if you can't even enjoy the life that you have with it? So this is what I mean and why I want to talk about this today, because we as women in business, in today's society, I feel like in general, women-owned businesses are built on the idea that you have to work in order to get what you want. In order to have the dream that you want to have, you have to work, and you have to work your ass off, right? That is the only mathematical way that you can get exactly what you want, is to hustle your little buns off and work, sacrifice yourself in the meantime, and then at some point you will arrive to your destination. But the reason why I ended up, in some ways, I kind of forced myself, the universe forced me into discovering feminine energy, is because early on in my business, I was like, I don't think that mathematical equation makes sense. How am I supposed to just arrive at my destination when I just keep experiencing varying degrees of frustration every year in my business, even though I'm making more money? Now, let me tell you, in year 3 of my business, I was making the kind of money that I thought would sustain me for life. Except what happened was I was working more. The money was still not enough, not because I couldn't budget or do so on and so forth, but my goals changed. And in year 1 of my business, I remember saying to a mentor that I was working with, I was like, oh, if I just make, 400, 300, 400K, that'll be totally sufficient for me. I don't really see or feel the need to make any more money than that. And didn't know that I was going to need to buy a house and, save a good portion of it. And we're not talking about take home here. We're just talking about gross revenue. And I just remember once I got to year 3 being like, how could I have ever thought that? Now, it's perfectly fine for goals to change. But most importantly, I was like, it was really the frustration that kept me on this, I just felt like I was being pulled to discovery, but in another way. I was like, how am I supposed to serve my clients when I'm just so frustrated and I'm so burnt out? How am I supposed to exist and continue this business when I'm only in year 3 and this does not feel sustainable to me? Sure, I could work, 40 plus hours a week, but I can barely maintain that, and I am just so exhausted. And I just don't see this as being a pattern that makes sense for me to get to my ultimate dream, which is to work less and make more money. So how, pray tell, am I going to, do these mathematical equations when it just felt like, and I had hired employees and I had hired other people to work under me, and none of it was working. The people weren't panning out. It ended up, I ended up with more work. It was just I was trying to follow this pattern that, society had led me, and overall the business advice world had led me to believe that was the way and the next steps that I would have to take in order to get to this place, right? This overall place where I'm working less and I'm making more money. And so I just thought, okay, this isn't working, right? And that is when I discovered, I had to keep asking myself, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? It was just like this overall dark hole that was just surrounding me and my everyday day-to-day business. And I'm like, how am I gonna, please let there be answers. Please, 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 please. And meanwhile, I just kept thinking I have no idea what I'm going to do next year, because I know for a fact I can't continue at this pace. And there are women out there who are going 30 years and they're the hustle is still there. They're still working, working their asses off. And, they maybe are able to take, 1 to 2 vacations a year. And that, if that lifestyle is something that you're totally satisfied with, and I say like you have to be satisfied with it, then that's great. And I'm not dissing that at all. But what I'm saying is that in order for women to thrive, because what it looks like for a woman to thrive and what it looks like for a man to thrive when it comes to running a business, or say you're even having a corporate job and you still want to feel like you're thriving in your life with that corporate job and whatever else you're doing. I mean, this conversation still applies to you, but you do have to seek out and question yourself and be like, what does thriving look like for me in my life right now? What can it look like, right? Like that is the ultimate question, because I think as women who have businesses, or, even if you have a corporate full-time job, it's very like, it's hard for us to identify what we really ultimately truly want. And for that, and oftentimes we don't even entertain that conversation because we're like, it's not going to happen. It's not a possibility. It's not a reality. It's not a possibility, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't until I pushed myself into this manifestation world that I was like, whoa, 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 hold the phone. So you're telling me that I can make even more money and I can work less. And it pushed me so far outside my comfort zone. It was a massive trigger. It was so irritating. It was all the things. And that's because I wanted what these people were telling me about. And you might feel the same way, even in this podcast. You're probably like, oh, I'm doing another podcast on how I make 30 to 60K months. And it's going to be coming out very, very soon. And, I just remember thinking, and I work like roughly 20 to 30. Oftentimes I don't even work 20 hours a week, but I would say the average, it varies between 15 hours and 30 hours. I don't go beyond the 30 hours. And if you're someone who's like, that's a load of BS, well, it's a valid response, to be quite frank. We don't know what we don't know. And anytime we can hear something that pushes us outside our realm of what we know to be real, we can get angry, frustrated, upset, irritated, jealous, you name it. All the emotions can come out. And that's a totally normal response. But it is so key that we as women take a step back and are like, what does thriving look like for me? What do I want it to look like? Remove any kind of like, well, these are my parameters that I have to follow within in order for things to be great for me. Throw those, take them down, throw them away. There's no more parameters anymore. There's just, what do you want? What do you want? What do you think thriving feels like for you? I know for me, not getting up early in the morning was one of the biggest things because I'm just not a morning person. Ever since I was a teenager, I've always gone to bed late. And even to this day, 11 o'clock, if I'm lucky, is like my early bedtime. That's just how I am. I don't like getting up early in the morning. And I've structured my days. Actually, it was funny because yesterday I was coming to my studio for a session at 9 o'clock in the morning, which I don't normally do, but I do make exceptions for clients and certain clients, of course. And I just was like, wow, I used to do this every time I had a photo shoot. Like, that's wild because, once in a while, totally fine for me, but I could never again push my body to do, it felt wrong because not for this particular client. I was more than happy to do so. But to do that on a regular day-to-day thing felt very, very forced, very like I'm pushing against a wall. And that's how I knew I had to make a change because it just felt like I was forcing something that felt unnatural. So thriving for me meant being able to sleep in, having flexibility, even if I don't sleep in, but just like getting up in the morning and being able to read, being able to, not rush off to a meeting or an appointment, or being able to clean, being able to do laundry, or just play with my makeup. Like it just meant freedom of time. And for example, thriving might look like for me, I just had lunch at my studio with my husband before I did this podcast. And it was a very last minute thing. I just sent him a message and I said, listen, I haven't been able to eat today. Do you think you'd be willing to go pick up Chick-fil-A and bring it to me and we can have lunch together? And he was like, yeah, sure. Like that would be great. And so we have these impromptu days. Like this is what thriving looks like for me, like for my family. And he was even telling me when he came here for lunch, he's like, oh, I was outside listening to the birds, like laying on the hammock after he had cleaned the kitchen. And he's like, life is amazing. Like, this is what thriving looks like for me, for my husband, for our family. And, I might not have known the specifics, but I knew I was chasing a feeling. And so maybe what you have to do in order to get clear on the direction that you want to move in with your business and your life and how to create a business that thrives is to understand what it looks like for you to thrive. And most importantly, what it feels like for you to thrive. What does it feel like to thrive in your business? Like for me, thriving in my business looks like not chasing after clients, not having to harass clients, having clients give me money willingly, and they're more than thrilled to give me money. Like I don't have to, fight for it. I don't have to really sell myself. I don't really have to, it just comes to me. They're going to come up in my space. They're going to come up in my world. They're going to be like, yes, I want to work with you. There's no hesitation or irritation regarding money. There's no resistance. There is just, there's a lot of joy. There's a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of satisfaction. Even when it comes to my coaching clients, like I don't have to force them. Like they're ready to say yes when it's time for them to say yes. And I don't have any, frustration when clients say no, because I'm like, you know what, it's not time or it's not a good fit, and that's totally fine. But they're going to come to me. So thriving for me, and even when it comes to my life, I very much wanted to have the energy to do the things that were really important to me, working out, eating healthy, and having the money and the resources also to eat healthy. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on what it felt like. First of all, my day-to-day living. What did I want my day-to-day to look like, right? And then number two, how did I want to feel around making money? How did I want to feel around other certain specific aspects of my business? How did I want to feel about clients coming to me and clients booking me? How do I want to feel about what it's like to put my work out on social media? What do I want other people to feel when they see my work? So I got really specific about those things. And that is what directed my entire life as it is like right now. And it is just really amazing to be able to lean into that safety and security that comes with those feelings and the trust that comes along with it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't, like in my photography business and even with my coaching business, I'm not like, oh, I only have X number of clients or money that I've made this month and it doesn't seem like enough. I'm not going to go and freak out. There's none of that. I just trust. I'm like, you know what? Clients are going to come in and coaching clients are going to come in, whatever, the money's going to come in from somewhere, and it's going to come in a really fun way. It's kind of like a video game, practically. Like I think of my life as, I'm like, ooh, I want to know, I wonder where that money is going to come from. It's a sense of fun, playful discovery that I have about my life, because I don't want to focus and live day to day as in like, oh, I need to hustle. I need to go and do X number of marketing, and I need to go and do this number many of posts, and this many number of reels, and this number of blogs or articles or whatever. I need to go and engage so much on social media. Like the pressure would kill my ability to thrive, literally. So I removed and had to give myself permission to remove that pressure and those parameters that I'm pretty sure every single person feels about running a business, and really lean into like, I'm just going to have to do what works for me, and I'm going to have to focus on what I think is going to make my business grow. And thank goodness that I had people in my life to help guide me to that area, because otherwise I just would have been doing the same old burnout, like, 1 month into the year, feeling burnt out, feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to go and do, it's nothing. But I feel like the best way to describe my business before I got to this point where it was thriving it was just like I was living in different realms and jumping from hoop to hoop of like other people's expectations. This is what you need to do for your business. This is what you need to do for your business. This is what you need to do for your business. And I wasn't actually doing what I really, truly wanted to do. And I had to create that, like, in regards to my feeling about how I feel about showing up on social media and how clients come to me. Like, I felt like I wasn't seeing out there what I wanted. And so I had to basically create it. I'm like, I want to feel this way about social media. So how I see social media, and this is how, it took a while, but I really had to sit with it. And finally, I came up with this feeling. I want social media. I want posting on social media and getting clients to feel like breathing. That is what I ended up narrowing in on. And I let that guide me. There were so many years, so many. I mean, I've had my business here for 4 years. And I have my business for longer than that, but that's a long story. But in the city that I live in now, I've had it here for 4 years. So it was really hard I was explaining what my business was like before. So it was just so much frustration because I was like, I want it to be easy. I want it to be easy. I want it to be easy. Like, that's what I was craving. And that's what my frustration led to. It was like, I would get really, really annoyed and really, really frustrated. And then it would go into like, well, this is just what I want. Like, this is just what I want. And so what I ended up with was this desire for ease and this desire for like, I just wish it was easy. Now, in past tense, you hear this little voice in your head that's like, well, of course it's not easy. Nothing worth having is easy. That's a load of shit, okay? Sorry if you're listening to this podcast with kids in your car. But it's a load of crud. And don't pay any attention to that because I'm going to tell you right now the best things that you can... No, listen, sure, it might not be like stereotypically easy, but the personal development is probably going to be the hardest part of it. And that is well worth the amount of work that goes into it. And it might feel like there's a lot of ways to explain the difficulty of personal development. And even listening to this podcast, you're like, okay, yeah, like what the work looks like in order to have things come to you with ease is so different than like hustling. It's like a let go kind of difficulty and not I'm putting in like 60 hours into this job to get paid minimal kind of hard. Like, it's just very different levels of difficulty. And I wouldn't even say the personal development is difficult. I mean, it's hard, but it's also like self-discovery that'll give you the best and most overwhelming amount of joy that you've ever experienced in your life. So it's like worth the effort. It's like childbirth, it's not enjoyable. And, any woman is going to be like, oh, if I could remove that, I'd have, way more kids, or childbirth would be so much easier. But you can't have one without the other. And the amount of joy that you get, seeing your baby once you give birth is like amazing, astounding. And that is, that's how we get to this part of like having things with ease. You can absolutely have what you want with ease. You just have to choose to believe it. You have to choose, and you have to give yourself a backbone to believe in what you want, right? And that is why this feminine energy work is so critical and so important, and why women-owned businesses cannot thrive without the feminine energy. Because the feminine energy is what allows you to unsubscribe from all these beliefs, ideals, parameters, and expectations that are not serving you and how you're showing up in your business, or how you're showing up in your full-time job, or how you're showing up, or even the full-time job that you have. Like, feminine energy is you saying, I'm unsubscribing and I'm going to create the life that I am feeling called to create. And I'm going to say F you to all the other parameters and societal expectations that are out there that are dictating that this is the only way that I can succeed. And I'm going to go and succeed in the way that suits me and lights me up. And I'm just going to see what happens. That is the risk, right? Like, that's the risk of fighting for you. That's the risk. And I took that risk. I mean, literally, I entered in when I really took on feminine energy, like in a whole entire sense. And I feel like I really healed the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine that was existing in me. It was the scariest thing ever, because I'm like, I have no freaking clue what it's going to look like to run my business. And I was like, well, there's no other option. I'm just going to have to jump off this cliff and see what happens. But I knew, I trusted that part of myself when I made that decision, because I was like, okay, well, I have no other option. I refuse. And my body could no longer handle not working out, but like working in my business the way I was working in it, showing up on social media. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Even if I wanted to, I could not go post on social media in the way that I used to, because it was so out of alignment for me. In my feminine energy healing and discovery, I just kept feeling like disconnected from the way that I was running my business before. And that's why I say, like, my business would not exist if it weren't for feminine energy. To be quite frank, I would have thrown in the towel, because I'm just not someone who can just do and kill myself for like 10, 15, 20, 30 years and then get what I want. There was no way that was going to happen. I would have rather quit and gotten a job, which that would have killed me, because I'm not someone who works well under other people. And I'm not supposed to. I'm not meant, and I'm not called to do that. But, I toyed around with the idea of throwing in the towel with my business in year 2 and then again in year 3, because I was like, I just don't know if I can do this. I really don't know if I can do this. And that's why they say most businesses don't survive under year 5. And I think for women especially, it's like we are not built to follow the systems that are out there for entrepreneurs, because they're mostly there for men and they're really not out there for women. Like, for us women, It is so important that we thrive, and feeling is so key to our success. And everything out there is just like, well, just work, do, go and do all the things, whether that's, posting on social media or showing up at networking events and, do. And of course, there is 100% a time and a place for action, even when you are thriving in this business. But learning what is in alignment for you and what lights you up and doing those things, it never feels like work. I mean, even doing this podcast for me, I had no idea that I was going to be uploading 2 podcasts a week. And if I had told myself this even a year ago, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like 2 podcasts a week and doing it on YouTube and creating clips and creating sound bites and, creating graphics, like all this stuff, like it would have been enough to shut me down alone. But here I am doing the podcast on top of running a photography business, on top of having a coaching business, on top of having workshops and doing all these other additional little things. And I'm like over here, like I'm pitching myself because I think my life is so awesome, but it doesn't feel like a lot of work. And a year ago, it would have previously been enough to put me into a coma because I would have been like, you want me to do what now? That feels like way too much work. And so when you move along in your journey to thrive and in your journey of healing yourself and in your feminine energy journey, the things that you perceived were a lot of work before are no longer going to feel like work. And that's how you know that you're in alignment. That's how you know that you're living your life in a way that is going to bring you more of it. When you get a taste of things that you love, there's more of that, where that came from. There is just more. You get to have more joy, more thriving, more excitement, more like, oh, it doesn't really feel like work. Now, sure, there are some times where I'm like, yeah, this feels like this week was a really busy week for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm really excited and I'm looking forward to relaxing. But it's not like, oh, I can't do this again type of work because that was a lot of work. It's more of like, oh, I'm like pure happiness exhaustion. It's kind of like when you've been playing with your kids for a while and you're like, okay, mommy's tired now, but it's not like, upset tired. It's like, I'm just excited to be tired because this was just really happy and a lot of fun. And it's like hanging out with your friends, or you've gone out for a night dancing and drinking, like you come home and you're tired, that kind of tired. Like that's the fatigue that I experience now. It's like, I'm not tired of feeling joyful, but I'm just tired, like a normal fatigue, because I have done a lot of the work that lights me up and that makes me happy. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So if you want to have a thriving business and you are feeling like, if you're feeling some of the things that I mentioned earlier, frustration, anxiety, resentment, burnout, a lot of those things, then it is 100% time to rethink and let go of the parameters around, oh, well, I need to change how I'm feeling about my life. I need to change, how I'm thinking about what is possible for me, right? So it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to throw the parameters away and to throw away those societal expectations that you've taken on within yourself subconsciously, but you owe it to you to try. You owe it to you to sit down and question and ask yourself and be like, is this belief serving me? How do I want to feel about my dreams? How do I want to feel about thriving in my business? What does that look like for me? How can I thrive in my business? Can I dare to dream and allow myself to create a life that ultimately serves me? Of course, the answer is of course you can. It's just a matter of, do I need some assistance doing so? Can I start this conversation myself? Yes, start the conversation and then maybe see if you need some help from someone to help nudge you and guide you along in that process, right? But you owe it to you to at least start and have that conversation. And for sure, working on knocking and removing those expectations and those parameters and the pressure to perform and to build your business a certain way. Because you can build your business sustainably, even if it's a baby business or even if it is a well already pre-existing business. You owe it to you to change things on a dime and to start shifting and moving things around so that your life is serving you, your business is serving you, right? You don't want to feel frustration or fatigue or annoyance with your business because you have to do all these things. Get rid of that. You don't need it. For women, we don't have to follow any of those patterns. We get to have this amazing ability to run our businesses and have a thriving life, no matter how old it is, no matter how set in stone things might appear. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making changes. And that has to come from an openness and a willingness to be able to change, to be able to modify. So maybe that's a question. Okay, am I so averse to making change that I'm not willing to take a couple risks in order to have the happiness and the joy and the contentment that can come every single day with running a business that thrives? Am I averse to change? You don't need to know what the outcome is, except you'll know it deep down inside in your gut and in your intuition. You'll know that you have to make this decision, right? Like for me, I had to decide. I was like, I just cannot. In fact, I feel like my body made it for me. I was like, I just can't keep posting on social media like this anymore. I cannot go and market like this anymore. I simply physically could not go and do it. Like even thinking about it just made me ill, because I was like, it's not in alignment. I have to open myself up more to what it's like to receive my clients to me, to have my clients magnetically pulled to me, to be sending me messages, to be reaching out to me. And that is what my life is like now. That's how my clients come to me. And it is so amazing. And it's a very different experience, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm so glad that I forced myself and allowed and trusted my body to not go and do the other things that I was doing. I mean, it was still scary. It was scary as hell. It was super, like I'm going to feel ill about doing this, but it was so worth it. And that's the duality and the difficulty of moving and running a business according to your feminine energy. But it is so well worth it. I'm telling you guys right now, like if any of this is like you're nodding and you're like saying yes and you're like, oh my gosh, I think this is the direction I need to move, my business in, then trust that feeling. Like trust that gut intuition, trust the magnetic pull that you're feeling, because your body knows what's up and your gut and your intuition knows exactly where to take you. It knows how to get you to having a business and a life that thrives. So trust that and think about that playful discovery. Like it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be, whatever. It can just be, and you can just be in discovery mode and just have fun. Like, or, just remove the expectation from the journey, remove the expectation from the discovery, and just start having those conversations with yourself. Start taking notes, start journaling, start feeling, start tapping into that desire of what you want and see what happens. And don't judge. Whatever comes out, don't judge it. Don't judge your thoughts. Don't judge yourself. Just be open and just kind of be in analysis mode and observation mode. You're just observing this new phase of life where you're in right now. And that is how, like, observation mode led with aligned action, led with feeling and moving and taking action on your desires is how you get to having a life that thrives. And for women, this is so key. I mean, again, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I know someone who had a 7-figure business and sold it because she was like, I don't have any time for myself. And it wasn't set up to really serve her and to help her thrive. And so she started another business and just went off and started doing other things because it just was not, it wasn't built according to her feminine energy. And she was like, I just can't do this anymore. So it's easier for her to sell it than to restructure the entire business. And so that's perfectly okay, but this is also why this conversation is so important, because if you don't want to have that experience, then not, or even say you sold, a multi-6-figure business or a 6-figure business or whatever. But if you want to have the best of both worlds, to have a business that serves you, to, whether you have employees or not, it really doesn't matter. But in order to have a life that really is serving you and you're feeling like, happy fatigue at the end of the week, then this conversation is important. The feminine energy way of running a business for women, in my opinion, like that is how women thrive. That is how women ultimately get everything that they want. The happy life, the happy vacations, the happy work is through feminine energy. So I really, really, really want to hear what your takeaways are. Come and join our Facebook group, The Intuitive Woman. And I ask this at the end of every single podcast episode. And it would literally mean the world to me for you to come into our Facebook group and just tell me, like, what was it that you really liked, or what was it that you heard that really stuck with you from this episode or from any other episode, and come and share it in our Facebook group. The link is actually in the footer of this podcast episode. So whether you're on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or whatever, it's going to be in the little footer. All you have to do is click that link. It's going to take you to the Facebook group and you can come and join. And we are also having a workshop on June 14th. So if you are interested in a free workshop, then come and join the Facebook group. Again, all the details are going to be there. Or if you don't see anything and you want to be a part of the free workshop, all you have to do is just post in the group and just say, hey, I'd like to attend the free workshop. I'll get your info. And that's all you need. So definitely, and the workshop is going to be a little bit of an extension of this topic that we talked about here today, but mostly focused on just how to get out of the hustle, because hustling is literally killing women. It's taking us out of our ability to enjoy life. And it's so it's horrible. And so come and sign up for the workshop. And I want to hear from you in the Facebook group. And also, again, if you know of anyone that would really resonate with this podcast, please share. It would mean the world to me. And also, if you like this podcast, if you think it's really great, come and drop us a review. And as well, it's on YouTube. So if you feel like you want to do something a little different and you want to watch it and you want to see my crazy facial expressions, then come and watch it on YouTube. So that is all for today. I cannot wait to talk to you in the next episode, and have a great day.